Hello and welcome to Stampscaping 101. We're going to be stamping on a half-page piece of rainbow holographic paper. This has been sourced recently, I've heard, by someone in the Stampscapes 2 Facebook group, and she has reported that she has found it. If I'm not mistaken, it was a 20-pack of 8.5 by 11 sheets for under $5. Now, I don't know if that's a clearance price. That sounds really cheap to me. I paid about $20 for a 20 pack of that, but that was like $10 for the paper and like $10 for shipping, though. But you can get a really good deal if it's that 20 pieces, 20 full page pieces for, under $5. That would be phenomenal. Okay, we're going to be stamping a scenario with nature sheet number 17, the island set, okay? And I'm going to be using one of my private stamps here by Fruit Basket Upset, purchased at Stamp Your Art Out. I think it was the one at the Cincinnati show. Okay, there was a couple Stamp Your Arts out that I've taught at over the years. Long ago, okay? Alright, so let's get a scenario set out. Okay, it's going to be one of those things where it's like this castle out in the, amongst the aisles coming out of a bunch of fog, okay? That's my kind of scenario here. So let's get this established here. Now you got to watch out on this paper. I'm using the Brilliance pigment inks, okay? White and black, Moonlight White, Graphite Black. And see right there, I didn't press hard enough or something like that. It's not really going to matter because we're going to be adding in some extra tones in there anyway. So I'm not worried about that one bit, and neither should you. This is the most forgiving surface in the world to work on. Now, I don't know, it didn't stamp right in there really great. I should really re-ink this because this surface right here is very, very mirrored, and sometimes it can fisheye, meaning kind of that ink can move around in there a little bit, so just watch for that. This set is brand new too, so that's kind of sometimes if you kind of rub the piece a little bit before you use it, that would be good too. Okay, or if you're stamping along like a Misty or something like that, just hit it again, But I'm not going to really need to do that. Okay, let's see. A little bit more pressure on that one. See that, I didn't apply enough pressure on that. Okay, that is that. This castle's going to go roughly about right here. Okay, coming out of the fog. I'm not going to stamp the whole thing. I'm just going to have it kind of coming out of the fog so I can stamp it a little bit lower. Like right around in here. Okay, now let's position a few smaller aisles around some of the larger ones in here. It's going to be one of those scenarios where you can't really tell where the surface ends and the sky begins, but we'll have both surface and sky in here. Let's go a little bit lower, maybe down here. Maybe I should position this one first. I haven't used this in a long time. My personal stamps sometimes don't always get the attention that they deserve. Because I'm doing, Stampscape stuff all the time. And demonstrating those stamps to be used. But Stampscapes is one of those things that's designed to be used with other companies' stamps. The more detail you have, though, the better. And the more it is in volumes, okay, as opposed to linear. Linear is a little bit more tricky to blend into Stampscape since in certain types of techniques, if you're coloring in with markers or something like that, then outlines and tonal, will go along just fine. Okay, now I've wiped off a lot of the ink down here. I would say the lower quarter inch. Let's go up a little bit more. Let's go about a 3/4 inch. So the bottom quarter is really wiped off quite a bit, okay? And with pigment inks, you really want to wipe it off pretty good. And then as it goes up here, it's getting a little bit more moist, and then it's full inked up in that area. So hopefully we get a transitioning impression. Okay, does that make sense? The less ink there is on there, the lighter it should be when stamping out because you're just applying less ink. Okay, stamp impressions, you put most of the pressure where the largest area, mass, and area of the stamp is, okay? It doesn't mean in the middle of it necessarily. If this area up here is like really outlined and the bottom is very solid or something like that, then you press kind of where more surface area is, okay? All right, just a little aside comment there. Okay, there it is. See how that transitions really nicely down there? Like it's going down into the fog. All right. Now we could be doing this on other types of foils. You can be doing it on, I don't know, maybe just cardstock, whatever, whatever you want. Okay. I'm just doing it on the foil. I think it kind of gives it a little bit of a head start in terms of, potentially visually dynamic scenario, I guess, yeah, is how you'd put it. Okay, let's go like this. This one I'm putting it at a bit of an angle. I could use it on my gigantic block, but there's, so much surface area there. Okay, I think that one will go in the distance. I tell you what, though, let's do this one really light. Things in the foreground are usually darker, and then as you move out into the distance, from a visual perspective, especially on kind of a foggy day, things look lighter because the light is reflecting off those most distant objects, and it's coming back to us, from that object through all that, sediment and moisture in the air. And things in the distance look lighter, okay? So what we're doing is we're just going to do that thing where we transition it as well, okay? First of all, there's less ink on here too, right? Now I'm wiping this from the bottom, like that, dab it, kind of get it a pretty good transition. Take a lot off the bottom part. Okay. Now hopefully this stamps out nice and light. Sometimes it stamps out much darker than I anticipated. Okay. And that's just because pigment inks, they're just so much thicker. So sometimes if I'm used to kind of wiping off dye-based inks, which are thinner, so it comes off much faster. But let's see how this one goes. Let's see if I'm getting a feel for the inks. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right. See how much lighter it is like that in the distance? I just kind of want a hint of it. Yeah, maybe I should have transitioned it a little bit more and have it a little bit darker over here. I can still do that, but let's keep it like that for right now. And let's go for a couple. I'm going on a half-page piece here so I can get more of the imagery in there. I can have more of this aisle, type of passageway in here. Okay, go down like that. Okay, now this is what I was talking about. Maybe I should have left things a little bit darker over here. Let's do it this way too. Okay, let's blot this off a little bit like that. Okay, and then let's say this side right here will be on the interior. I'm going to wipe it off right in here a little bit more. If you have watch my videos on kind of stamping partials, this is kind of related to that. And that you're just kind of selectively utilizing certain parts of the image. In this case, I'm using the whole image, but I'm utilizing value and the characteristics of rubber stamping, making an impression in order to get a multi-toned impression, okay? You can do that with any ink that you have, which is a really fun thing. Most people just utilize their inks in their full incarnation. They're just used to doing that. But what I say about that is that you can use them in various forms, okay? From light to dark. And I would encourage you to do that. You'll just get more, you certainly get more for your money, money's worth. Because in one blue, you can have any color of blue, any value of blue, starting from the very darkest version of that given pad, all the way to white. In theory, okay? Just depends on how much you use of that ink. All right, about like this so far. Looks kind of crazy, but we're going to really fog it in here, okay, and have like some sky and things like that. That's where a lot of the fun comes into play. Who doesn't like looking out at the ocean, too? Everyone likes looking at that. It's kind of relaxing and whatnot. As long as it's not like stormy and all that, you know, or something like that. But we'll try to give this, create a nice, really, really tranquil scenario here. Okay, here's a real small isle. Let's go about here. Okay, and let's go up here. I'll put it right next to that other island. Maybe it's part of that, you know. Something like that. All right, it's a little bit darker here in the foreground, lighter in the background. All right, now one of the things that I am really happy to report is that heat setting is really no problem. I don't know, I was kind of gun shy about heat setting, okay, on this type of paper. Worried about, I don't know, the metallic surface and whatnot, but I find that heat setting works just fine, and it doesn't kind of affect it in a negative way, so far from what I've found. Okay, let's heat set. We'll heat set a little bit from the back as well. One thing I don't like about heat setting metallics and the foils is that, you know, the curl that happens, but we'll just counter curl it, bend it. Okay. Now, one thing on this is that it almost has like this plastic coat. I did hold it a little bit too long in one part, and I could see it, the surface kind of puckering. So just be careful of that. Keep your wand, you know, your heat gun kind of moving. Counterbend it like this to get that back. I don't know if everything is completely dry on here yet, but I think it'll be dry enough for our purposes. So, all right. So now, there's different things that we can do on here. We can go in with our darker tones, or we can go in with our lighter tones. I think I'm going to go in with my darker tones first, I think, or should I go in with the white? Let's go in with the white. I think you can do either one, okay? All right, so I just have a 100% cotton ball, and let's go in and start creating this kind of foggy scenario. That's a lot of white on there. I need to be careful about that. I don't want big blobs of everything. But let's start toning, okay? So this whole area down here is going to be kind of blanketed in, you know, coastal fog or whatnot. Okay, and I'm going to go right into my islands, especially the lower portions of them, okay? Maybe the islands are tall enough where they're coming out of the, you know, out of that fog. Don't worry about going over the top of it too, you could. I probably should have wiped off the bottom of this one right here. It would have given me a little bit of a head start in terms of, kind of adding these tones in here, and kind of giving it that foggy look, just like the castle. But never mind. What's done is done. So I can just go right up the top of it with this. Okay, now when we're doing this too, what we're doing is we're blocking off the holographic aspect of the paper. So, just be aware of that. But I think the holographic paper is a little bit loud, or really too loud, just as is. So that's why I like to go in and add quite a bit of this. And then, for scenic stamping purposes at least. Okay, now I'm going to some white. Let's oscillate things. I think I need to do both, not at the same time like this, but roughly, just kind of oscillating it back and forth. I want some really dark tones right here in the foreground, and I want some of this white to go over the front of this foreground island, this close island form. Okay, and this is where I'm just going to fill in those spots that didn't stamp out. Okay, there we go with that. Okay, I'm going to come up here. I'm trying to decide if I want to add this in. I'm going to add it in right now because I'm going to heat set this a little bit too. It's kind of a circular process where I'll add some black, then we'll add some white, then we'll add some black into it over the top of that. Okay, I'm going to create a little bit of a vignette here, or a strong vignette maybe. If you want a kind of a narrower application, just alter your cotton ball and make it skinnier. Okay, see I'm kind of getting at the base of that island right there. Create a little bit of shadow. Use kind of a swiping motion too. If you use too much of a swiping motion, though, what you do is end up taking off ink that hasn't already been heat set. So kind of use it just accordingly. Alter it around. Applying this kind of, a lot of times it looks really weird. It's until you kind of blend things together and add more tones and layer things that it kind of all comes together. It kind of all starts coming together at kind of the same time. And for me, the way that I do it, it's kind of at the end. So you're just kind of, manipulating things until then a little bit. Okay, let's see here. You can see these kind of islands are casting a little bit of a shadow, which is what I'm trying to do, trying to create. Alright, now what I want to do is I want to do kind of freeform sky figures up here. Alright, clouds are kind of made of, vapor and soft looking type of formations. So, a cotton ball is pretty good for that, right? Alright, come down here like so. You can use a mask too. In fact, maybe I will do that. Use a little bit of a swiping motion. This scene would be kind of interesting too if I did it on, did some photo stamping with it. I think that would be kind of interesting. Hiding a lot of the surface of the paper, but some of that color is kind of, with this type of media or surface, some of that always comes through because it's a very loud, inherent surface that we're working on with the holographic. So I can type, I can tap right over the top of that castle without it smearing because it has been heat set. Okay. Anywhere I touch down here where I've just applied the ink, it's very, very wet. So let's go back down there. Maybe I should heat set it. Alright, coming along. I'm starting to kind of see a little bit of what I'm kind of going after here. Kind of comes together slowly. Sometimes very slowly. But that's good because you have a lot of control over your application of media that way. Okay, this castle is going to be backlit, so I'm going to kind of create a little bit of a shadow down here. It will still be unfogged down here, but bit backlit too. I'm picking up a little bit of my texture of my fingernail on here, but that I'm trying to make it that work for me, just for a little bit of a textural variation. There's so much light that reflects off of the surface, and of course we're getting those colors. So sometimes it gets a little confusing as to kind of getting the gist of the overall lighting scheme of a given piece, because it's like a mirror. So you hold it in one direction and you have this glaring light, but then you hold it in another direction where there's very little light. So I mean, the spirit of the piece changes with the angle that someone is holding it to, and then the amount of light that's being reflected from it. But that's also what makes it so dynamic and fun to play with. I think we're almost ready to do a little heat setting, even if it's not a ton of heat setting. We need to do it a little bit. Okay, all right, let's see here. A little bit more on the castle, I think, to backlight it. Every time I touch the top, I'll really need to heat set. I keep saying that, but it's like, I got to keep working here. It's coming out. It's looking better and better. Okay. Yeah, because every time I touch any area where there's a thick application of it, it just comes right off on my finger. All right, let's do a little heat setting here. Yeah. Before I heat set, let me get it set up. Make sure that I'm set up everywhere. Where I want to, have it fixed. I can still alter it by adding more tone here and there, but you want to get things pretty well situated in terms of, definitives in here where you're going to have that ink. Okay, the colors become, or the value of the black becomes much more, or it becomes lighter and matte as opposed to glossy. Okay, it looks very glossy when you first apply it, but it looks very matte when dry. Okay, see that? Fairly dry, matte looking. All right, now let's go in. I think I can go in here now with some white ink. Okay. Let's go back to our white and apply it back in here. So we're kind of going back and forth with this, okay? All right, this is going to represent our light, and start adding that up into the sky. I have a lot on here, so I'm tapping very lightly into the piece. Some of the white is layering the black, giving me kind of a new incarnation of a different tone. Because otherwise it's, white on mirror and black on mirror. Now we have white on the black that's on the mirror, so it's like the third coat. In some areas you were putting the black on the white, and that's different too. Okay, see that kind of fog coming around the corner there on that castle. All right, now we have the shadows in there created by the isle. Now I'm going back into that shadow, made much easier by the heat setting. I wasn't doing that before, so I couldn't do a lot of this type of thing. I don't know. I was really worried about kind of like the burning of that foil, and metallics, or the curling. But the curling's not really any big deal. I'm going to come over this foreground island hill here. So it's like the fog is kind of coming over it. All right, let's do a little bit of masking here too. Okay, like so. Coming up into the castle impression. You're really adding a lot of tone on right in there. Just to kind of put that side of the island in a lot of light. But look at that there. It's kind of giving that spirit, isn't it? Getting there. And believe me, when I'm doing this, though, I think it's really starting to come around right now. But it looked pretty sloppy there for a while. You're using an oil-based black, and putting it on foil and whatnot, but you start oscillating the tones back and forth. You go with the white, then you add more black to it, add more white over that, and it kind of comes about. I wouldn't say nicely, but incrementally, you know what I mean? You'll see the light is coming from in here, general, so I'll light this side of the island, but on this side, I'll light the right side of these small islands. Okay, so it just kind of reinforces kind of lighting direction. It's like a storm or something like that, isn't it? Storm brewing. Sometimes I can't tell where the ink is on my cotton ball. Kind of using a little bit of a wispy type of kind of tap here. Seeing if I can get a little bit of a different texture. All right, let me try something here. I haven't done this before, from what I remember. Let's take a paintbrush here, and let's see if I can get a little ink on here. I don't know if I'll be adding or subtracting with this type of looks. I think it's adding. I don't know. Yeah, kind of getting a little bit of a texture. And here I'm kind of scratching off some ink that's been applied. It's a little bit rough. It's hard to tell though because I have so much light reflecting back at me. Okay. So I don't know if you can see a little bit of texturing up there from the brush. I don't know, not really. Alright. Yeah, like that. That's awesome. Those color transitions like that. Alright. That is that. Now, let's go back into the black and see if we can do anything with that. So go flip-flopping back and forth a little bit, or a lot. Alright, so going with this, I'll make maybe some of the clouds a little bit deeper. I don't know what it'll look like when it dries, though. Sometimes my last coating I'll just leave and let air dry. So, you just kind of oscillate things, It looks really strange with one coat, okay? I'd say for me, I don't know, things just, at least in this technique right here, they start coming together a little bit more with this such extreme blending right here with the, maybe with the third coat, you can kind of see it coming into, things rounding into form. Right here, I don't know, my thought is just kind of deeper shadows, maybe a little bit. Okay. Okay, a little bit of deeper shadows right here in the foreground. Darker areas, darker objects closer to you. Kind of pushes things in the background, and also that type of contrast kind of makes the lighter things seem one step lighter as well. So you're darkening, but you're also by contrast making something else, anything that's lighter than that, seem that much lighter. Alright. Let's hit the perimeter a little bit more. Four corners. Kind of creating a little bit more of a vignette coming around here just to frame things off slightly more. Okay. Okay. Let's heat set that a little bit now. Okay, now let's go back to the white. Why not? I don't know what it's going to look like, but I think it, if it doesn't help, then no big deal. It's like sandwiching layers of pigment with media. And they are kind of translucent layers of media, so you always have what's underneath it kind of showing through. Yeah, adding a little bit more texture, making things a little bit less even up there. And adding more white so it's making it lighter as well. Okay, let me take a look at this as a whole. Seems pretty interesting. I gotta check out and see the colors. See, the colors are just barely visible down there, which is pretty good. I don't know if I wanted it to be like a mirror of the sky down here. I want it to be, and have fog down there. Let's see, I think I need a little bit more right in here. Okay. All right. It seems like I could use a little bit of a textural addition to this. Maybe. I'm not sure. Maybe a focal point thing or foreground imagery, perhaps. Let me take a look here and see what I have as far as like some foreground. Yeah, all right, I'm going to put a little bit of foreground in here. I'm kind of toying around with the idea of putting a figure right here in the foreground, the lady on horseback. It would totally change the spirit of the piece, but I don't know, it might be kind of interesting. But then, I don't know. I might just leave it as is, though, too. I'm not sure. Okay, just something a little bit of a foreground element here. Something very close to us as a viewer. Okay. It's the winter brush. One of my favorite foreground elements, or just elements in general. I don't use it enough, but every time I use it, I always wonder why I don't use it more often. See that? I can also go for another tree or something like that over here. Let's go for it. I don't know. I'm just toying around with the idea. Let's just go ahead and do it. Or should we? Why not? All right. Okay. Yeah, it looks pretty good. I don't know how much it contributes to the overall, but yeah, I think that looks really good there. Okay. All right. Just for a slight visual in here, in the background, where's my lighthouse? Let me grab the little tiny flock here. Or the gulls, actually. Maybe not. Oh, actually, let me see here. I'm going to try to ink up maybe two of them. Kind of tough just inking it up with the pad here, but okay. Now should I go? Make sure I didn't get it on a third gull. Looks like I might have got it on a little bit of a wing there. Okay, let's put these two. Something like that. Selective stamping, sometimes even with little animals. Use two gulls instead of, a little flock of them. Which, I don't know, I think would have been a little bit too much right there. Okay, now one of the things I was looking at was a little tiny detail that might kind of enhance the overall kind of emotional feel of the pieces. I'll put a little bit of a light up there in that castle. All right. Hopefully we'll think of it not as like the dungeon or something like that, but just that's a room with a view up there. One of the best views in the kingdom, maybe. Okay, I'm shaking up my acrylic pen here a lot. Okay, get a nice opaque output there. Okay, and I can just reach this better from this side, so that's why I'm doing it from below or upside down like that. And I'm just illuminating these windows right in here. I don't want to do it right up there, I don't think, in the top portion, like the attic. But, so I just kind of put a little bit of a light right up there in those windows. Okay. Like about like so. And I'm looking to see if I should put some highlights. I don't think this is one of those things. I just don't think like a crisp highlight is necessary in this one. It might actually detract from it, having something so sharp. Everything's so soft in here and mottled. Maybe not. Okay, so let's take a look at this and see if it's done. All right. What do you think? What do you think about that foreground? Did that work? I think it looks pretty good, huh? Kind of added something, a crisp element, to a dominant, soft scene. But look at that right up there. What do you think about that holographic up there? I think it would have looked pretty good on, any other type of colored paper. On white, I think it would have looked okay. Would have looked more grayscale. I would have done it in, if it was just on regular paper, I would have used dye-based inks as opposed to pigment inks, but I think that looks okay. In terms of the color and whatnot. Just enough color kind of to make it interesting. I mean, you turn it in some directions and you don't get any color at all, but just kind of like the storm brewing in some areas or something like that. And look at that right down there. I mean, it's just a little bit. I can block it off or I can just leave it, but I think that looks okay. All right. So, anyways, holographic. I don't know. What is it? It's probably like 10% holographic now, and just kind of blocked out. The rest of the on the rest of the scene, but just having that little tinge of it is kind of nice to me. But there it is, in kind of just black and white or whatnot. I would have created more subtlety, had it been just black and white without the holographic. But the holographic kind of compensates and, makes it a little bit more interesting overall. So I don't have to get too, I don't have to have too much finesse when it comes to that. All right, so anyways, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it.